nation's capital, the Conservative Caucus presents Conservative Roundtable, an in-depth look at today's most important issues.
Welcome to Conservative Roundtable. I'm Howard Phillips, chairman of the Conservative Caucus, which sponsors this broadcast. This program is a very important one, and it's the second in a two-part series with the distinguished author and historian, Dr. Jerome Corsi. In our initial broadcast, we talked about several of the books which Dr. Corsi has written, including a book about the Minutemen and immigration, Atomic Iran, a book about welfare, and the book which was used by the Swiftboat veterans to bring to the attention of the American people the many flaws in Senator John Kerry. That was called Unfit to Command. Currently, Dr. Corsi is working on a project which is of extraordinary importance to the liberty and independence of the United States of America and to every one of us. Those of us who keep abreast of current events are aware of how the nations of Europe have to a very great degree surrendered their independence to a bureaucracy in Brussels, in Strasbourg, in Luxembourg, under the aegis of something called the European Union. Now, without a vote in Congress, without any hearings, George Bush is guiding our country secretly and silently into a North American Union, which would totally undercut the history of liberty and independence of our country. Dr. Corsi, your research on this, the articles you've written, the speeches you've given, are of historic consequence. In many ways, you're the Sam Adams of the 21st century for warning people about the danger we face. Talk to us about it.
Well, I'm deeply honored you would say that, Howard. The Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America, SPP, is the name that this movement goes under. It began, I came across it really in doing the research for Minutemen, the Battle to Secure America's Borders with Jim Gilchrist, because we could not understand why President Bush would not secure our borders. We have a war on terror going on, and we know there are terrorists who come across the border with Mexico. Some Hezbollah terrorists were up in Dearborn, Michigan, are now in federal prison, sending money back to Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon. So it didn't make any sense that President Bush would not secure the border. And then we began examining this Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America, which was declared at the end of the summit meeting in Waco, Texas, March 23, 2005, with President Bush, Vicente Fox, and Canada's then Prime Minister, Paul Martin.
Now, SPP.
Right.
Why have so few people heard of this? Was there any coverage given to this meeting among Fox, Martin, and Bush?
At the end of the meeting, in the press conference, President Bush, the three leaders came out and declared the Security and Prosperity Partnership. But it kind of went by notice because the word seemed so innocuous. I mean, of course we're all concerned about security and prosperity in North America, and why not have a partnership with our two neighbors? I mean, it was almost Orwellian in its simplicity. It's like a Brave New World construct that you're supposed to ignore.
And in many ways, it echoes the predictions of Eric Blair, known as George Orwell,
yes,
in his book 1984,
well, precisely,
who predicted that the world would be divided into three superpowers.
That's right.
They seem to be following that script.
Yes, and it would all be done with these great slogans.
You've got the European Union, you've got the North American Union,
that's right,
and then you've got Red China in charge of Asia.
Well, that's right. And so the Security and Prosperity Partnership then, which was neither a law or a treaty, it was a press conference. It ends up next being in the Department of Commerce. There's a whole website, spp.gov, standing for Security and Prosperity Partnership, Sam, Peter, Paul, .gov. And it's .gov because it is a government website. And this documents, if you go to that website and you click down, there's some bars to the left. One says Report to Leaders. If you click to that, you'll see a 2005 June report back to the three leaders. And now there are 20 working groups formed within our bureaucracy, every department you can think of, Howard, from Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, Health and Human Services, you name it, it's involved. Cabinet-level reporting. They report to Secretary of State Rice, Secretary Chertoff in Health and Human Services, Secretary Gutierrez in Commerce, and their counterparts in Canada and Mexico and their bureaucracies.
You know, the new president of Mexico, Calderon, was supported by the Bush administration.
Yes.
Because he's in agreement with them on this project.
Oh, yes.
And unlike Obrador, the man he supposedly defeated, he is a total free trader, eliminating borders, tariffs, etc. One of the good things about Obrador, even though he was a socialist, is that he recognized the danger to his country's independence by these outrageous free trade agreements that Bush has been pushing, together with Fox and Martin in Canada. What about the new head of the Canadian government?
Well, again, you've got with Harper, again, the same kind of a agreement fundamentally, that a free trade agreement should go into a political agreement. Because, see, these working groups, Howard, are a shadow government. What they are is a reconstitution of our bureaucracy to have the comparable bureaucracies of Mexico and Canada integrated in the process, with the end result that all of our administrative law and regulations are rewritten to harmonize or integrate with Mexico and Canada. That means a rewriting of law and the administrative branch.
And this is done without congressional oversight or review.
That's correct. There's no, it should be.
And you know, the Constitution in Article 1, Section 1 says all legislative powers shall be vested in a Congress of the United States. But Congress has abdicated its responsibility and let the executive branch just steal authority, lawmaking authority, to which it is not entitled.
Well, that's right. Congress is asleep at the wheel. If you take a look at this report to the leaders, you'll see that there are maybe 40 agreements, memorandum of understanding, other reconstitutions of law described in that report. But yet there's not a single treaty that's been submitted to the Senate for a two-thirds vote.
And of course, NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, was never subjected to a two-thirds vote in the Senate. It was treated as a simple agreement.
It was slipped through.
It's unconstitutional as it now stands.
Well, the whole point of...
Same thing with World Trade Organization.
Oh, yes. Well, Howard, what's going on is it's all beneath the radar of public scrutiny. It's all designed to be deniable and to be boring and to actually be such that you wouldn't know what's going on unless you really understood what you were reading.
Beyond that, our government bureaucrats are saying, in effect, well, you're only an American citizen. We can't tell you about these things.
Exactly. We filed a Freedom of Information Act request because most of these documents were not on the websites. I've got about 1,000 pages back now.
You just won a big victory getting that.
Oh, yes, it was huge. We're going to put them up for the public to read on MinutemanProject.com. And I've been writing about them because when you read these documents, there's a fundamental rewriting of our law, and the term United States of America is being replaced by North American. We don't have anymore a U.S. steel policy. We have a North American steel policy. We're going to have a trusted trader, trusted traveler program being introduced in 2007. These bureaus, this shadow government, has agreed that you'll be issued, Mexicans, Canadians, Americans, a biometric trusted traveler card. It'll be like swiping it through a checkout at a credit card in a grocery store. You'll be able to walk anywhere you want to, live anywhere, work anywhere. 30 million more Mexicans want to come here.
This is what's happened in Europe, where borders have been eliminated.
Erased.
Now, we're going to have to take a break, but there's so much we have to talk about. And let me preview what we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about the Amero, the effort to replace the dollar, so-called, as they replace the currency in Europe with the euro. They're going to have an Amero. There's a shadow government being created. There is a super NAFTA highway up and down the spine of America. And there are so many other things which you have brilliantly discovered, exposed, and explained to the American people. The tragedy is that the media isn't covering this. Members of Congress, in their ignorance, are denying it's a fact. but it is a fact, and some of them are waking up. Please stay with us, and some of this very important information will be shared with you by Dr. Jerome Corsi. We'll be right back. Since the presidency of George H.W. Bush, the father of the incumbent, we've heard a great deal of talk about something called the New World Order. This is something of which every American should be wary, because what it means is the transfer of control over our tax dollars and the setting of policies which affect us from an electorally accountable Congress to international bureaucracies over which we have no real control. Work with the Conservative Caucus in defeating the goals of the New World Order and restoring accountable, limited constitutional government in America.
The Conservative Caucus, www.conservativeusa.org or 703-938-9626.
Here's how you can become a citizen lobbyist and influence how your representatives vote. Write a letter to your congressmen and senators. Speak out on a call-in talk radio program. Write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper and call the Conservative Caucus for more information at 703-938-9626.
More than the entire population of Cincinnati. More than all the men and women in the Marine Corps. More than 4 times the number of unemployed auto workers. Since 1980, over 500,000 Americans who make clothing and home fashions have lost their jobs because we don't realize the impact of buying imported goods. So if you think looking for the Made in the USA label doesn't matter,
next,
it matters.
Find curious facts from America's past at loc.gov, the Library of Congress website.
Welcome back. I'm Howard Phillips, chairman of the Conservative Caucus, which sponsors Conservative Roundtable. I urge you to pay attention to the next 10 or 15 minutes of this program. And I want you to know that if you're interested in what we're discussing, you can write to us at the address I'll be mentioning after the next segment for a copy of this program. You need to share this information with your neighbors. Dr. Jerome Corsi, as I indicated, is the Sam Adams of the 21st century in alerting the American people to an extraordinarily unconstitutional attempt by President Bush and his administration to subordinate the United States to a North American Union which would have authority over our courts, our Congress, and our president. Tell us about that 15-man commission that would oversee the United States.
Well, the whole idea here, Howard, is to evolve NAFTA into a North American Union, but to do it incrementally. That's why you've got right now the Security and Prosperity Partnership being stage 2. And one of the things I like to get people's attention on to see how it's going to work, take a look at these NAFTA superhighways. Right now you've got the Trans-Texas Corridor. It'll be the first
it's 4
segment.
football fields wide.
4 football fields wide of highway.
And they've got in the middle of the highway an entity run by Mexicans set up to benefit Communist China.
Well,
tell us how that works.
Here's how it goes. It'll be 5 lanes for traffic each way. In Texas, it's going to be built by Cintra, C-I-N-T-R-A, which is a Spanish company. And the tolls will go to Spain. That company is owned by King Juan Carlos of Spain. Now, this highway is a brand new highway. It'll be parallel to Interstate 35. It'll start at Laredo, Texas, go up by Austin, Dallas, right to the border south of Oklahoma City. And the intention is ultimately it'll be extended parallel to Interstate 35 through Kansas City, up through Duluth, right into Canada. Now, why they're doing this is the idea is to open up Mexican ports on the Pacific, like Lazaro Cardenas. So we've got these red Chinese, slave goods and near slave goods, and now the container ships are going to have 12,500 containers. They won't even fit through the Panama Canal.
Which is one of the reasons it's being expanded in size for the benefit of Red China.
Exactly. Well, ultimately, when it's expanded, these container ships will go all the way to Miami and unload there. But the point is to bring them in so you don't have to unload them in Long Beach or Los Angeles, where you'd have to use longshoremen. You don't have to transport them across the Rocky Mountains.
Now, this has been denounced by Jimmy Hoffa and the Teamsters.
Oh, absolutely. Teamsters are totally against this. And instead, you bring the containers into Mexico, Mexican ports, unload them with Mexican dock workers, Mexican trucks, Mexican trains, and you bring them up through Laredo, Texas, into the NAFTA superhighway, where they can ultimately end up, they're going to build a Mexican customs office in Kansas City, which is billing itself as an inland port. Okay, now, Howard, this is a plan by what I would call the Rockefeller wing of the Republican Party. You've got to remember that Republican does not necessarily mean conservative.
These are the New World Order boys.
Right, and so the globalists, the pure capitalists, have found their best source of labor, which is zero. The borders are open in Mexican not because Mexicans want jobs that Americans won't do.
And by the way, this explains why Bush has been unwilling to have a tough immigration policy. He does not want to defend our borders. He wants to erase our borders.
He agreed in Waco, Texas, Security Prosperity Partnership, to erase the borders. So in will come the 21st century slaves from Mexico to work here, and with the red Chinese goods, so that Walmart, Kmart and the others now have their best cost of labor, which is close to zero, and their best cost of transportation, which is close to zero. And in the process, it will destroy the American middle class. Now, Howard, I keep sending people to go to keeptexasmoving.com, which is a Texas Department of Transportation website. And on it, you can see the 4,000-page environmental report with the architectural drawings of this highway. The final public hearings were held this past summer. They're all done. The highway is going to get started in 2007. Now, I know there'll be people listening who won't believe this. There'll be people voting for Governor Perry.
And what can come in on these trucks? Drugs,
of course,
illegal immigrants, weapons?
Well, Howard, under SPP.gov and the Trusted Trader and Trusted Travelers, if you're a trusted trader, you'll have a chip in your truck. It'll go right through the Laredo border. SPP.gov describes that like going through an easy pass on a highway. Nobody will look in the truck. Now, the Mexican drug cartels have been buying trucking companies for 10 years to launder money. Nobody's going to look in these trucks. They're two-thirds filled with marijuana. Nobody's going to look in these trucks. They're trusted traders. Of course, the Teamsters will be undercut. So will the individual owner-operators of trucks, because Mexican truck drivers are paid less, they work longer hours, they don't have nearly as safe rigs.
They're very dangerous because they drive without sleep.
Exactly.
They drive on drugs and alcohol, and there's no way to control it or inspect them.
But see, the capitalists, the pure money-at-any-cost guys, don't care if across the border with the 21st century slaves who are going to work for nothing come drugs, crime, killers, rapists, murderers. They don't care any more than they care if drugs come across the NAFTA superhighway. That's not their concern. Their concern is profits and the additional millions and billions they're going to make.
Okay, we've got just a little time. Talk to us about the shadow government.
Okay, the shadow government, then, is within SPP.gov. Our bureaucracy, every one of our departments, has merged with working groups in Canada and Mexico, and they're rewriting all the areas of our law, of our administrative law and our regulations. E-commerce, energy, health, environment, all the trade goods, textiles, steel, you name it, Howard. Aviation, they're going to open up our aviation system, to Mexico and to Canada, even to the point of knowing where our military aircraft over the United States. As incredible as this seems, if you go to spp.gov and start reading it, you'll see a myths versus facts where the spp.gov says, no, we're not a treaty, we're not a law, we're just operating this way.
Is there anyone in Congress watching this?
Yes. Increasingly, they're catching on to that the reality belies these denials. Tom Tancredo, Steve King of Iowa, these are representatives who are taking a serious interest in this. Howard, there's going to be a need to call for hearings and
we
get
need
this
to have hearings. You and I are forming a coalition to fight this. and we're inviting everyone watching this show to join our coalition. Perhaps by the time people have seen this show, we will have had a news conference at the National Press Club announcing our coalition.
And if people go to the articles I've written on Human Events Online at worldnetdaily.com, I've linked multiple references in those articles, so if you click them, you'll see the government documents for yourself that I'm referring to.
We're not making this up, folks. This is real. This is dangerous. I mean, the most evil people in the world have advertised their intentions, but their intentions weren't believed. Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, but people disregarded it. They didn't believe that he meant what he said. And right now, people are ignorant of and don't believe what is being done by the Bush administration in destroying the liberty and independence of our country.
Right, starting with Bush 1, followed by Clinton, and now acted on by George W.
It's bipartisan treason. We have to take a break. We're going to conclude this in our final moments. But I urge you to write to us to get a copy of this broadcast and share it with your friends at your religious house of worship, in your home, at coffee parties, with your coworkers. This is extremely important information. We'll be right back. The Constitution of the United States is a guarantor of our liberties if it is followed. Unfortunately, too many of our elected officials neither read the Constitution nor adhere to its provisions. The Conservative Caucus has as its mission limiting the federal government to its delegated, enumerated functions. We strive to reassert the principles of sovereignty and accountability set forth in the Declaration of Independence and confirmed in the United States Constitution. The Conservative Caucus deserves your support as the only national conservative organization for which constitutional fidelity is a prime issue and motivating force.
The Conservative Caucus, www.conservativeusa.org or 703-938-9626.
Here's how you can become a citizen lobbyist and influence how your representatives vote. Write a letter to your congressmen and senators. Speak out on a call-in talk radio program. Write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper and call the Conservative Caucus for more information at 703-938-9626.
There is a better way to have fun with history. Visit americaslibrary.gov. Log on, play around, learn something.
Come on, you're going to tell me that buying one imported towel is going to cost someone their job?
Ever tried shopping for clothes with a 4-year-old? I can't be looking for where the stuff is made.
Since 1980, nearly 500,000 Americans who make apparel and home fashions have lost their jobs, even though the quality of our products is second to none, which makes you wonder if it's foreign competition that's hurting us.
So the shirt's imported. Who's it gonna hurt?
Or if it's us that's hurting us. Buy American, and Americans work.
Welcome back. I'm Howard Phillips, chairman of the caucus, Conservative Caucus, which sponsors Conservative Roundtable. You can reach us by fax, 703-281-4108, by mail, TCC, the Conservative Caucus, 450 Maple Avenue East, Vienna, Virginia. Or you can check out our website, www.conservativeusa.org. You can reach Dr. Jerome Corsi at MinutemanProject.com. Please contact us at the Conservative Caucus in whatever manner and ask us to send you at no charge a copy of this broadcast on DVD. It's very important that this information be widely disseminated. And if not by you, then who? We're doing our best. Dr. Corsi and I and the Conservative Caucus team and the Minuteman team to get this information out to members of Congress, House and Senate, to get it out to the American people. But we need your help. We can't do it alone. Dr. Corsi, in the moments remaining, tell us what else we should know about what's going on. Tell us about the Amero. Tell us about these other things.
Well, the plan is to have a new currency. Everybody's going to lose the dollars. We're going to have an Amero, A-M-E-R-O. It's like the euro. And Howard, it's the exact same plan that's happened in Europe, where Europe went from a common market, really a steel and trade agreement.
Margaret Thatcher said the biggest mistake she ever made was agreeing to that first step.
Exactly.
Because it put her at the top of a slippery slope which led to the European Union undermining the liberty and independence of the United Kingdom.
And there's a huge body of intellectual work being done on this, saying that to go to a North American Union, like to go to a European Union, which will be a full regional government that will have supremacy over the United States, just like in Europe, its own court, its own legislature, its own president. The plan is to do it incrementally, step by step, exactly like it's being done here. First, NAFTA, then the Security and Prosperity Partnership, a shadow government put into place with working committees, rewriting administrative law.
We got to cut here, Jerry. Contact us. Ask for the CD, the DVD, free of charge, and we'll also send you copies of Dr. Corsi's articles on this topic. Dr. Jerome Corsi, thanks for your leadership on this issue, and thank you for watching Conservative Roundtable.